The thermal scanner beeped wrong, not the normal beep that said everything was fine. This was the warning beep, the one that meant something bad was happening inside container 77 Kappa. Sienna Wade stopped walking and looked at the device in her hand. She had worked at Waypoint Station 14 for 3 years. She knew every sound these machines made. This sound was trouble. The container sat in row 12 of the cargo bay. It was big and gray and covered in warning labels. The largest label was bright red with white letters. It said, "Machine handling only." This meant no living creature was allowed to touch it. Only the automated loading systems could move it. Only repair drones could open it. Sienna walked closer. Her scanner showed the temperature inside was rising. That should not happen. These containers were designed to stay cold. She called her supervisor on the communication device. His name was Dulek, and he was a Brevari. His species had 4 arms and blue-gray skin and a face that always looked tired. "Dulek, I have a problem in row 12, she said. "What kind of problem?" "Container 77 Kappa is heating up. Something is wrong with it." Dulek arrived 2 minutes later. He looked at the scanner readings and made a sound that meant frustration in his language. "This is a machine-handling container," he said. "We cannot touch it." "But something is failing inside." "Then we wait for the repair drones. They arrive in 72 hours. Sienna felt cold. "What is inside this container, Dulek?" He checked his data pad. His 4 arms went still. That was a bad sign. Brevari only went still when they received very bad news. "Medical stasis equipment," he said quietly, "being transported to the Talari homeworld." "Stasis equipment? Is someone inside?" Dulek did not answer. He did not need to. Sienna could see the truth on his face. She pushed past him and ran to the station's medical database. Her fingers moved fast across the screen. She searched for the transport manifest. She found it in seconds. Patient Vesa Talarione. Age 6 standard years. Species Talari. Condition critical. Requires constant stasis until arrival at homeworld medical facility. Sienna's heart stopped. There was a child in that container, a dying child, and the power keeping her alive was failing. She ran back to Dulek. "How long can a Talari survive in degraded stasis?" "I do not know." "Let's find out now." Dulek made calls. He spoke to Station Medical. He spoke to the Talari ambassador who was staying on the station. 20 minutes later, he had the answer. 40 hours, he said. If the stasis drops below optimal levels, a Talari child can survive 40 hours, maybe less. And the repair drones arrive in 72 hours. Yes. Sienna did the math. It was simple math, terrible math. The child would die 32 hours before help arrived. "We have to do something," she said. "We cannot. The protocols are clear. Machine handling cargo cannot be touched by organic workers. If we break this rule, the station loses its charter. The Commerce Authority will shut us down. Thousands of workers will lose their jobs. And if we follow the rule, a child dies." Dulek looked at the floor. "I am sorry, Sienna, I truly am, but there is nothing we can do." He walked away. Sienna stood alone in the cargo bay, staring at the container. She could hear the cooling system struggling inside, making sounds it should not make. The Talari ambassador found her an hour later. Her name was Rill. She was small and delicate, with silver skin and large dark eyes filled with tears. "You are the human who found the problem," Rill said. "Thank you for trying." "I have not tried anything yet." "There is nothing to try. I have begged everyone. Security, station command, the Commerce Authority representatives, they all say the same thing. The rules cannot be broken." Sienna looked at the ambassador. Then she looked at the container. The red label seemed to glow under the cargo bay lights. "Machine handling only." "How much does that container weigh?" Sienna asked. Rill checked her data pad. 340 kilograms. On Earth, that would be impossible for one person to lift. But this station ran at 0.8 standard gravity. That brought the effective weight down to about 270 kilograms, still impossible for most species, still insane to attempt. But Sienna was human, and humans came from Earth, a heavy gravity world, a world where people trained their bodies to move impossible weights, a world where mothers lifted cars off their children and rescue workers dug through rubble with their bare hands. Sienna had been a rescue worker once, before she came to the stars, before she took this quiet job on a quiet station. She had pulled people from collapsed buildings. She had carried grown men up ladders. She had done impossible things because impossible things needed to be done. The container sat there, silent, waiting. Inside, a child was dying. Sienna began removing her work gloves. "What are you doing?" Rill asked. "Something stupid," Sienna said. "Something against the rules, something that might destroy my career and my freedom and everything I have built here." "Why?" Sienna looked at the ambassador. Her answer was simple. "Because your daughter is in that box, and I can hear her running out of time." She walked toward the container. The red label warned her to stop. Every rule in the galaxy told her to walk away. She wrapped her hands around the grip bars. And she pulled. Security Chief Orval moved like a shadow through the cargo bay. His species, the Keithrani, had evolved on a dark world where silence meant survival. He made no sound as he approached Sienna from behind. "Step away from the container," he said. Sienna did not let go. Her hands were still wrapped around the grip bars. Her muscles were already starting to shake from the effort of trying to lift something that did not want to move. "There is a child inside," she said. "I know what is inside. I also know what happens if you touch that container." Orval walked around to face her. He was tall and thin, with black armor-like skin and compound eyes that reflected the cargo bay lights. He looked frightening. Most species found the Keithrani terrifying, but Sienna had worked with Orval for 2 years. She knew he was fair. She knew he had children of his own. "The station charter," Orval continued. "The insurance agreements, the trade protocols, all of them say the same thing. Machine handling cargo cannot be moved by organic workers. If you break this rule, the Commerce Authority will revoke our operating license. 14,000 workers will lose their jobs. The station will close. And if I follow the rule, Vestan dies." Orval's compound eyes flickered. One life against 14,000 careers. One child's life, she is 6 years old. The math does not change because she is young. Sienna finally let go of the grip bars. Her hands were red from the pressure. She turned to face Orval directly. "I used to be a rescue worker on Earth," she said. "Did you know that? I read your file when you were hired. Then you know about the coastal collapse. Earthquake that dropped half of New Brisbane into the ocean." Orval said nothing. He remembered the news reports. Millions of humans affected, thousands dead. It had been one of the worst disasters in Earth's recent history. "I was there," Sienna said. "I pulled people from the rubble for 19 days, no sleep, no rest, just digging and carrying and refusing to stop. On the 8th day, we found a family trapped in a basement. Mother, father, 2 children. The father was already dead. The mother had a broken spine. The children were scared but alive." "Sienna..." "The building above them was unstable. Our engineers said we had to wait for heavy equipment. They said going in was too dangerous. They said the protocols required us to secure the area first." She stepped closer to Orval. Her eyes were hard. "I went in anyway. I carried those children out on my back one at a time. Then I went back for the mother. The building collapsed 6 minutes after I pulled her free. If I had waited for the protocols, they would all be dead." Orval was silent for a long moment. "This is different," he finally said. "This is not a disaster zone. This is a functioning station with rules and consequences. The consequence of following your rules is a dead child. That is not acceptable to me. And the consequence of breaking them is the end of everything this station represents." Sienna looked back at the container. The cooling system was making worse sounds now, grinding, struggling, failing. "Then let it end," she said. "Let the Commerce Authority shut us down. Let them take my freedom. Let them do whatever they want to me. But I will not stand here and let a little girl die because a red label told me not to help her." She walked back to the container. Orval followed her. "I should arrest you," he said. "Then arrest me after I move the container. I should stun you and drag you to the security office. Then do it, but know that you will be choosing the rules over a child, and you will have to live with that choice forever." Orval's hand moved toward his weapon, then it stopped, then it dropped to his side. He could not do it. He had 3 children of his own, young ones. The thought of any of them trapped and dying while people argued about protocols made his stomach turn. The cargo bay doors opened. Dulek entered, followed by Ambassador Rill. Behind them came a young Brevari worker named Kato. Behind him came more workers, dozens of them, all the species of the station, all watching. Dulek walked up to Sienna and pressed a data chip into her hand. "The access codes for the manual overrides," he said quietly. "The automated safety systems will not stop you anymore. Dulek, you could lose your job. Some things matter more than jobs." Rill moved forward and placed her small silver hands on the container beside Sienna's. "I cannot help you lift it," she said. "I am not strong enough, but I can share the weight of what happens next." Kato joined them, then 2 more workers, then 5, then 10. None of them could actually help move 340 kilograms of metal and machinery. Their bodies were not built for it, but they stood there anyway. They chose to be part of this moment. They chose to share the blame that was coming. Orval watched them all, then he holstered his weapon. "The cameras see everything," he said. "I cannot control what they record." He walked away. He did not help, but he did not stop them either. Sienna looked at the crowd around her. All these people, all these species, all breaking the rules together. She tightened her grip on the container, and she began to pull. Pain is a language. Sienna learned this truth on the cargo bay floor as her muscles screamed words she did not want to hear. The container did not move, not even a little bit. 340 kilograms at 0.8 gravity was still 270 kilograms of dead weight. Her legs pushed, her arms pulled, her back bent under pressure it was never designed to handle. "Nothing." She released the grip bars and stepped back. Her breathing was heavy. Sweat ran down her face. The crowd watching through the cargo bay windows made no sound. "It is too heavy," Kato said. "No organic being can move that." "Humans can lift extraordinary weights," Dulek replied. "I have seen the records. They have competitions where they move vehicles and metal spheres larger than themselves. Those are trained athletes. She is a cargo inspector." Sienna was not listening to them. She was thinking. On Earth, she had learned that strength was only part of lifting. Technique mattered more. Position mattered more. The way you used your body against the weight made the difference between success and failure. She studied the container. The grip bars were designed for loading mechs. They were positioned at chest height. This was wrong for human lifting. All the power came from the legs and hips. Pulling from chest height wasted that power. She dropped to her knees and looked underneath the container. There were support brackets near the base, not meant for lifting, but if she could get her hands under them, she could push upward instead of pulling outward. "I need cargo straps," she said. Kato ran to get them. He returned with a bundle of reinforced straps used for securing heavy loads to transport ships. Sienna took them and began wrapping them around the container, creating loops that she could slip over her shoulders. "What are you building?" Rill asked. "A harness. I cannot lift this with just my arms, but if I spread the weight across my shoulders and back, I can use my whole body." She worked quickly. The straps formed a crude system of loops and connections. When she was done, she stepped into the harness and positioned herself in front of the container. Her back was to the metal surface. The straps ran over her shoulders and connected to the brackets underneath. She bent her knees. She placed her feet flat on the floor. She leaned forward until the straps went tight. Then she pushed upward with her legs. Her muscles screamed again, but this time there was movement, a small sound of metal shifting against the floor. 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters, the container was lifting. Then her legs gave out and it crashed back down. Again, she said through gritted teeth. She lifted, she held it for 3 seconds. She dropped it. Again. 4 seconds this time, still not enough. Again. The crowd at the windows had grown larger. Workers from every section of the station. Beings who had never spoken to each other were standing side by side, watching a human try to do the impossible. Sienna's legs were shaking. Her back felt like it was on fire. Her hands were bleeding where the straps had cut into her skin. She did not care. She lifted again, 5 seconds, 6 seconds. The container was 2 centimeters off the ground. She took a step forward. The weight shifted. She almost fell, but she caught herself and took another step. Then another. Then another. The medical bay was 100 meters away. 100 meters of empty floor. 100 meters of agony. She dragged the container 3 meters before her body forced her to stop. She lowered it carefully and collapsed. Against the side, gasping for air. Rest, Dulloch said. You will hurt yourself. No time. She stood up. Her vision was blurry. Her heart was pounding so hard she could feel it in her teeth, but she stepped back into the harness and lifted again. 5 more meters, then rest, then lift, then 5 more meters. The process took an hour, the most painful hour of Sienna's life. Her body begged her to stop. Her mind screamed that this was impossible. Every part of her wanted to give up. But every time she looked at the container, she thought about the child inside. 6 years old, scared, alone, dying. Vesa did not have the luxury of giving up. Neither did Sienna. She was at the halfway point when the alarm started. Red lights flashed across the cargo bay. The sound cut through the air like a knife. Someone had reported her. The station's automated systems had detected unauthorized movement of machine-handling cargo. Security protocols were activating. Sienna kept moving. The cargo bay doors opened. Orval walked through them with 4 armed guards behind him. Their weapons were drawn. Their faces were serious. Sienna Wade, Orval announced. By the authority of the Commerce Authority and the Station Security Division, I order you to stop. She did not stop. Her legs pushed. Her back strained. The container scraped across the floor, moving inch by painful inch toward the medical bay. Sienna, this is your final warning. She looked at Orval over her shoulder. Her face was covered in sweat. Her eyes were red with effort, but her voice was steady. Then make it count, she said, because I am not stopping until that child is safe. She turned back to the container. And she kept pulling. Orval had killed before. In his 40 years of security work, he had faced criminals, terrorists, and beings who wanted to hurt innocent people. He had never hesitated to use force when force was needed. But as he stood in the cargo bay with his weapon drawn, pointing at a bleeding human woman who was slowly dying trying to save a child, he found that his finger would not move to the trigger. Why, he asked. His voice was quieter than he meant it to be. Why would you destroy everything for this? Sienna did not stop moving. The harness straps cut into her shoulders. Her legs trembled with every step. But she answered him between ragged breaths. Because she is a child. The rules exist for reasons. The protocols protect thousands of workers. The protocols will not comfort her parents when she dies. You could go to prison for 15 years. I know. You could lose everything you have. I know. Then why? Sienna stopped, not because she wanted to. Her body simply refused to take another step without rest. She turned to face Orval, still wrapped in the harness, still connected to the container that held a dying girl. On my world, she said, We have a word, deathworlder. Other species use it to describe humans. They think it means we come from a dangerous planet. They think it means our bodies are strong and our gravity is heavy and our animals want to kill us. She took a deep breath, her lungs burned. But that is not what it really means. Being a deathworlder means we learn something that other species never had to learn. We learned that death is always close. We learned that we cannot wait for perfect conditions. We learned that sometimes you have to act now with what you have, even if it hurts. She pointed at the container. That child is dying right now, not tomorrow, not next week, right now, and I can help her. Maybe I will fail. Maybe my body will break before I reach the medical bay, but I have to try, because trying is what deathworlders do. Orval's weapon wavered. His compound eyes flickered with something that might have been understanding. You would sacrifice yourself for a stranger. She is not a stranger, she is a child. That makes her everyone's responsibility. The guards behind Orval shifted uncomfortably. They had families too. They understood what Sienna was saying even if their training told them not to listen. Ambassador Rill pushed through the crowd of workers. Her silver skin was stained with tears. She walked past the guards without looking at them and stood beside Sienna. I cannot lift anything, Rill said. My species is weak, but I can share what happens next. Whatever punishment comes, let it come to me too. Dulloch stepped forward. His forearms hung at his sides. I gave her the access codes, he said. I am responsible. Kato moved to join them, then two more Brevari workers, then a pair of tall, thin beings from a species Sienna did not recognize, then more and more. Within minutes, 20 workers stood around the container. None of them could help lift it. Their bodies were not built for such weight, but they placed there. Hands on the metal surface anyway. They chose to be connected to this moment. Orval watched them all. His weapon was still raised. His duty was clear. The rules demanded he stop this. But the rules had not seen what he was seeing now. A human woman, bleeding and broken, refusing to let a child die alone. A mother ambassador, crying but standing strong. Workers from a dozen species, risking their careers for someone they had never met. This was not a crime. This was something else. Something the Commerce Authority had never considered when they wrote their protocols. Orval lowered his weapon. Chief, one of his guards said, Our orders. I know our orders. The cameras are recording everything. Let them record. Orval holstered his weapon. He looked at Sienna with something like respect in his alien eyes. I cannot help you, he said. If I help, I become part of this violation. My career ends. My ability to protect this station ends. I understand. But I also cannot stop you. Not after what you said, not after what I have seen. He turned to his guards. Clear the path to the medical bay. Remove any obstacles, and make sure no one interferes with what happens next. The guards hesitated. Then they moved. They pushed cargo containers aside. They opened doors. They created a clear route from where Sienna stood to where she needed to go. Orval stepped aside. 30 meters, he said. That is how far you have left. Can you make it? Sienna looked at the path in front of her. Her body was screaming. Her muscles were failing. She had never felt so much pain in her life. But 30 meters was not that far. Not really. Not when a child's life was waiting at the end. She tightened the harness straps. Watch me, she said. She turned back to the container. She bent her knees. She pushed with everything she had left. And the container began to move. 8 minutes. That was how much time remained when the container crossed the threshold of the medical bay. 8 minutes before the stasis field collapsed completely. 8 minutes before Vesa Telarione died. Sienna did not see those 8 minutes pass. Her body had finally surrendered. The moment she dragged the container through the medical bay doors, her legs gave out. She crashed to the floor and did not get up. When she woke, she was lying in a hospital bed. Her hands were wrapped in bandages. Her back was supported by a rigid brace. A machine beeped steadily beside her, measuring her heartbeat. "You are awake," a voice said. Sienna turned her head. It hurt to move, everything hurt, but she managed to look at the speaker. It was Dulloch. He sat in a chair beside her bed, his 4 arms folded across his chest. His face looked even more tired than usual. "The child," Sienna whispered, her throat was dry. "Did she?" "She survived. The medical team extracted her with 3 minutes to spare. Her stasis equipment was failing faster than we calculated. If you had been any slower, she would have died." Sienna closed her eyes. Relief washed through her like warm water. For a moment, nothing else mattered. Not the pain, not the consequences, only the fact that Vesa was alive. "How long have I been unconscious?" 14 hours. The doctors said your body shut down from exhaustion and strain. You tore muscles in your back, your shoulders, and both legs. You will need weeks of physical treatment to recover." "Worth it?" Dulloch made a sound that was almost like a laugh. "I knew you would say that." The door opened. Orval walked in, followed by 2 beings in formal robes. Their species was unfamiliar to Sienna, but their expressions were serious, official. "Sienna Wade," Orval said. "These are representatives of the Commerce Authority. They are here to discuss what happened." Sienna tried to sit up. Pain shot through her back and she fell back against the pillow. "Do not strain yourself," one of the representatives said. "We can conduct this meeting with you lying down." They introduced themselves. Their names were long and difficult to pronounce. They explained that they had reviewed all the security recordings from the cargo bay. They had seen everything she did. "You violated 17 different protocols," the first representative said. "You touched machine-handling cargo. You moved it without authorization. You endangered station operations and insurance agreements." "I saved a child's life." "That is not in dispute, but the law is the law. The rules exist for reasons." Sienna looked at them. Her voice was weak but steady. "Then charge me. I plead guilty. I broke your rules. I knew what I was doing and I did it anyway." The representatives exchanged glances. "You understand," the second one said, "that the maximum penalty for these violations is 15 years in a Commerce Authority labor facility." "I understand." "And you still plead guilty?" "Yes." A long silence filled the room. The representatives seemed uncertain how to proceed. They had expected arguments, excuses, denials. They had not expected someone to simply accept the consequences without complaint. The door opened again. Ambassador Rill entered, holding the hand of a small figure wrapped in a medical blanket. Vesa Talarione was awake. She was tiny even for her species. Her silver skin was pale from her ordeal. Her dark eyes were huge in her small face. She looked fragile, breakable, alive. "This is the human," Rill said softly to her daughter. "This is the one who saved you." Vesa walked slowly toward the bed. Her steps were unsteady. Her body was still recovering from the damaged stasis. But she kept moving until she reached Sienna's side. "Thank you," Vesa said. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Mother told me what you did. She said you carried me when no one else would." Sienna felt tears forming in her eyes. She reached out with one bandaged hand and gently touched Vesa's cheek. "You are welcome, little one." "Did it hurt?" "Yes, very much." "Why did you do it if it hurt?" Sienna thought about the question. She thought about Earth. She thought about the collapsed buildings and the rescued families and all the times she had pushed her body past its limits. "Because some things are more important than pain," she said, "and helping people is always worth hurting for." Vesa nodded slowly, as if she understood. Then she did something unexpected. She climbed onto the bed, careful not to disturb Sienna's injuries, and curled up against her side. "I am glad you found me," Vesa said. "I was scared in the dark." Sienna wrapped her arm around the child as best she could. "You are not in the dark anymore." The Commerce Authority representatives watched this moment in silence. They looked at the broken human holding the child she had sacrificed everything to save. They looked at the ambassador crying quietly by the door. They looked at Orval and Dulek, standing together like witnesses at a historic event. The first representative cleared his throat. "The tribunal will convene in 3 days," he said. "You will face charges for your violations, but I think we need to discuss what those violations actually mean." He turned and left the room. The second representative followed him. Sienna did not watch them go. She was too busy holding Vesa, feeling the child's heartbeat against her chest. Whatever came next, this moment was enough. This moment was everything. 63 species sent representatives to watch the tribunal. The hearing chamber was filled with beings from across the galaxy, all wanting to see how the Commerce Authority would judge a human who broke every rule to save a life. Sienna sat in a hover chair because she still could not walk properly. Her back was healing slowly. The doctors said she might need another month before she could stand without support. She did not care. She was alive. Vesa was alive. Everything else was just details. The chief judge was an ancient being from a species Sienna did not recognize. His skin was like tree bark. His eyes were deep pools of liquid silver. His voice echoed through the chamber like wind through old ruins. "Sienna Wade of Earth," he said, "you have pleaded guilty to 17 violations of Commerce Authority protocols. Before we pass sentence, do you wish to speak?" "No," Sienna said. "I did what I did. I accept the consequences." "Very well. Does anyone else wish to speak on behalf of the accused?" The chamber erupted with voices. Ambassador Rill stood first. She spoke about watching Sienna refuse to give up. She spoke about what it meant to see someone choose a stranger's child over their own safety. She spoke about hope. Dulek spoke next. He described how Sienna had thought through the problem, how she had built the harness, how she had broken her own body 1 meter at a time rather than let a child die. Kato spoke. The other workers spoke. Being stood up and described what they had seen in the cargo bay. The chamber heard about sweat and blood and determination. They heard about a human who would not quit. Finally, Orval stood. "I am the security chief who should have stopped her," he said. "I had the authority, I had the weapons, I had every legal right to stun her and drag her away." He paused, but I looked at what she was doing, and I realized something. The rules we enforce are meant to protect people. They are meant to keep lives safe, and in that moment the rules were going to kill a child. He looked at Sienna. She understood something that I had forgotten. Rules are tools. They are not masters. When a rule becomes a weapon against the innocent, it is no longer serving its purpose. It is just words on a screen. The chamber was silent. The chief judge leaned forward. "Security Chief Orval, are you saying the rules should be changed?" "I am saying the rules should include room for judgment, for situations that the original writers never imagined, for moments when following the protocol means letting evil happen." More silence, then murmuring, then louder discussion. The judges left to consider their decision. They were gone for 6 hours. When they returned, the chief judge's face was unreadable. "Sienna Wade," he said, "this tribunal finds you guilty of all charges. The evidence is clear. The rules were broken." Sienna's heart sank. "However," the judge continued, "we also find that the rules themselves were incomplete. They did not account for situations where following them would result in preventable death. They did not include room for organic judgment in moments of crisis." He lifted a document. "Therefore, we are implementing a new provision in Commerce Authority protocols. It will be called the human exception. It allows organic workers to intervene in machine handling situations when life is at immediate risk, provided they accept full responsibility for their actions." Sienna could not believe what she was hearing. "Your sentence is reduced to time served. You will perform community service on Waypoint Station 14 for 6 months. After that, you are free." The chamber exploded with noise, cheering, clapping, sounds of celebration in 100 different languages. Sienna sat in her hover chair and cried. 3 weeks later, she returned to work. Her back still hurt. Her hands were still scarred, but she could walk again. She could lift things again. She could do her job. On her first day back, she walked through the cargo bay. Everything looked the same. The containers, the loading mechs, the red warning labels on machine handling cargo. But there was one small difference. On every red label below the words machine handling only, there was now a smaller line of text. It said, unless life requires otherwise. The human exception. A young breviary worker noticed her staring at the label. His name was something she did not remember. He was new to the station. "Excuse me," he said. "What does that line mean, the human exception?" Sienna looked at him. She thought about Vesa. She thought about the cargo bay floor. She thought about all the pain and fear and determination that had brought her to this moment. "It means we get to choose," she said. "It means when the rules tell us to let someone die, we can say no. We can decide that life matters more than protocol." The young worker nodded slowly. "That sounds like a good rule." "It is." Sienna walked away. Behind her, a new cargo container arrived. It bore the red label with the small amendment underneath. Somewhere in the galaxy, on stations and ships and outposts, other workers were seeing that amendment for the first time. They were learning what the human exception meant. They were learning that sometimes the right thing to do is lift what you are not supposed to touch. They were learning to choose.